Did you want me to go ahead and with some of the wording that?
Well, perhaps it'd be, just while we're on this aspect, Lori, did you want to speak now? And then we'll go back because you have things of another nature.
Well,
I want to address.
thank you. I do. And I want to say this carefully, but I think, Mr. Gandhi, you and I finally have found something we agree on. And that's that the process has not been served in this. And the process has been a very public, very transparent process for 4 years between the Planning Commission and the City Council. And then lo and behold, last night, 5 men get together in a room and make a deal, and then we get a piece of paper with something on it. I about fell over when I heard about that. That's not the process. That's not the people's business in front of the people. And I agree. I think we were trying to be accommodating to that. You know, Marcia, you can call it compromise or leverage, you can call it blackmail, whatever, but we won't sue if you do what I want, is how it came out sounding to me. So, you know, I think we have a large discussion ahead of us, because if we're not looking at something that's going to be a true compromise between two parties, there's a big issue between 4 stories and 5 stories as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. Marshall?
Do you want me to go ahead or on the wording and stuff, or did you want to still continue to discuss this?
Made her point. Anybody else wants to talk on that? I think it's time we move forward with your cabs.
I just want to say, Mayor, I've got one question for Roger Seaver that I think's
Need to be at this time?
well, I think it's an important question for him to answer at this time. On the 4 stories, is there, with 4 floors versus 5, is there the exact same number of beds? Can that be guaranteed? And is there adequacy of nursing stations? Is health care exactly the same? Is the compromise diminish the facility?
The weight of the compromise in my mind that was, I hate it, was 5 guys in a room, sorry. But we have advocated and continue to advocate that the 5-story project, as described, is the most predictable project for the most efficient hospital operation. Alternative 3 we have not supported because the layout of a larger footprint and a shorter building changes the configuration of the nursing units. We have done a preliminary analysis that suggests it will significantly affect our efficiency. However, I must acknowledge we've not, because we have no approval on what size of building, we've never done all the detailed studies. So in discussions on trying to come united to this meeting tonight, I made a judgment that there's tremendous value in having no lawsuits, no delays. Let's deliver health care. Let's stop talking. That was the judgment I made. I believe that lawsuits are extraordinarily expensive, and most expensive is the loss of time on our ability to continue to deliver health care. I have continued that this evening based on that judgment and counsel with members of my board on the trade-offs that we're making. The trade-offs is the compromise, but I do not support approval of alternative 3 without this type of language that tries to ensure no lawsuits.
Thank you, Roger.
Thank you. At this time, I'll close the public hearing. Marcia?
Well, I'm not sure I was ready for that one yet. Regarding the little chart here, it's 11-15, the mitigation, monitoring, and reporting. Regarding solid waste, it doesn't mention anything in here on a recycling program. It talks about recycling, but it doesn't ask for a recycling program within the hospital. You know where I'm at?
Lisa?
Thank you. Lisa Weber, planning manager with the city's community development
It's
department.
Exhibit B.
The recycling is required as part of the project conditions of approval. That is a standard condition of approval, and so it's reflected more in the conditions as opposed to the mitigation monitoring and reporting program.
But it doesn't state in here that they will employ a recycling program, and if we don't ask them to do that, then they don't need to do it. And I would just like to have language in there that we will require some sort of a recycling program. It talks
Councilmember McLean, I would direct you to the Environmental Services Division Conditions of Approval.
on what page, please?
They're in the conditions of approval on pages 23, 24, and 25.
Where is that in here?
It's
Oh, I see, okay, 23, 24, and 25.
and condition ES7 speaks to a number of measures to increase the diversion and encourage source reduction of solid waste. And there's 3 bulleted points there. This program will include a method for an annual monitoring program for the city to evaluate diversion rates. The facility shall be required to meet a diversion rate of 50% or greater on an annual basis. So
Okay,
if you look
so-
at the first bullet point, it speaks to the applicant shall prepare and submit a comprehensive outdoor recycling program.
Right, I read that already,
Okay.
I realize that. But in your monitoring, wouldn't you want to list in here that you will monitor their recycling program under the mitigation monitoring and reporting program?
It was not, the reason why it's not in the mitigation measures is because this is a standard condition and because it's already a component of the project. There was not going to be an impact that was created as a result of this. So we're covering it in one of 2 ways. But certainly we can add more language into the conditions of approval, which require close monitoring by the city. I would say that's probably the best way to go about doing it.
Okay, I would appreciate that, just to assure that we're getting the full impact of that. Okay, in the after you do Exhibit A resolution, when you're talking about the ordinance, I'm not sure. Okay, there's some language in here. It says the development agreement will not adversely affect the health, peace, comfort, or welfare. How in the world can you say that when this is a big project and it's going to change the dynamics?
All of the documentation and findings of fact for the project recognize that absolutely the character of the existing campus will certainly change. The intensity of the development will increase, the massing of the campus will increase. It will go from a campus that has predominantly all surface parking to one that includes multiple structured parking. So all of the documents really try to reflect that there are certain areas that do require a statement of overriding considerations, which means that even with mitigation measures, impacts continue to be at a significant level. But overall, the findings did conclude that this would not create a detrimental impact or effect on the overall character of the area. And that is because of the variety of measures that were implemented and the variety of changes that were made to the master plan during the course of this process. And that actually, I remember, Councilmember McLean, you did ask that question at the meeting of September 23rd, and we did try to provide an answer to you on that specific point in the topical responses.
I understand that, but you're making a statement here. You're saying in here that, yeah, it is going to affect it and we have to do overriding considerations, but then you're making a statement that it doesn't. I mean, that makes no sense to me.
The council will need to weigh the positive and adverse aspects of the project as part of its decision
But how
making.
can this wording remain if you state in here that there are going to be things that cannot be mitigated, but you're saying it's not going to affect the peace of the people during construction and everything else? Do you want to try to help me understand that?
Yes, there are two findings that you're dealing with two different findings. In the environmental context, you're looking at whatever your thresholds of significance are and whether or not an impact is going to be significant. And if it's going to be significant, then you either mitigate it or you have to say it can't be mitigated. That's what the environmental finding is all about. With respect to the development agreement, the finding, I think you're talking about the finding on 3A.
Right.
Yes. With respect to that, you don't have a threshold of significance for that. That's your code. So staff has put in here a paragraph of text that we believe supports this finding, if that's the finding the council is inclined to make. If the council doesn't agree with that finding, they're not going to be able to make that finding. The test of whether something adversely affects the health, peace, comfort, or welfare of persons residing or working in the surrounding area, according to this paragraph, is measured not just by what impacts there are going to be on the surrounding neighborhood from construction, et cetera, but what benefits are there going to be in terms of the project when it's ultimately developed. And you have to balance those out, and that's what that paragraph talks about. If you don't agree with that finding, then you either need to look at the record differently and ascertain if there's additional information that helps you make that finding, or you're not able to make that finding.
Couldn't we have a little more honest sentence and state that while it could, we believe that, the benefits outweigh it? I mean, at least that would be the truth. Whoever's doing the out there, it's very disturbing, and I wish you'd stop it. So anyway, I would hope that the rest of the council could just ask for language that might make that a little more truthful. Okay. When you are looking at the next section, when you're talking about issuance of a building permit for MOB 3, this is under, I wish there were page numbers on here. This is 4.7, timing of construction of project improvements. I'm wondering if you are willing, you could add in there when you say complete the construction of the traffic mitigation, complete the construction of the realignment, foundations for the inpatient building shall be substantially complete. If you're talking about the foundation and steel in the air, I don't understand why you can't just say that the foundation needs to be complete. That was kind of what I had asked for, and substantially complete doesn't mean complete. And also, I'm wondering if you wouldn't add in there that there needed to be a contractor's agreement for completing the inpatient building. That was something that I had actually put on a little sticky note before the memo came to us regarding the meeting that took place. And also, I just wanted to, this wasn't in there before, and I wanted to thank the hospital for agreeing to have this language in here. This makes it a little more, gives a little bit more of an assurance that the people out there have been concerned with. So I like that. I just wondered if the contractor's agreement for the completed inpatient building can't be added to that. That's all for now. I'd like to reserve my comments also.
Thank you. Frank, are you good now? Thank you. Lori? Lorraine?
We've spent quite a few years on this, and we've watched hospitals close down. We've gone through thousands of pages. Literally, I have a couple thousand pages sitting up here at the desk, and there's been hundreds of changes and visual improvements, mostly thankfully to public input, and appreciate that. I would just like to clarify one more time: there is no eminent domain. It has been precluded by the agreement. It is precluded. That means it can't happen, and all of the traffic mitigation necessities of land and changes are on the hospital side of the boulevard. In address to no new hospital space, I don't know how other people do the math, but Medical Office Building 1, immediately upon it being built, creates 40,000 feet of usable hospital space by moving the administration out of the hospital building and into an office building where it really belongs, which is off the Oshpod pad. So to me, that's immediately 40,000 square feet of hospital. So I think that's important to discuss and to remember. The street improvements have been shifted to the hospital side. I think that that's a real benefit to the adjacent homeowners. The medical office buildings are guaranteed to be medical office buildings. I don't know of any other developments in our city where the medical office buildings are guaranteed to remain medical office buildings. I think they're medical office buildings for as long as they want to be, and if they don't want to be, they don't have to be. So that's a shift. I've heard discussion about the helicopters. The helicopter really is under FAA rules, and we don't really have much input on that. On MOB2, the 20% minimum as a center of excellence, I think we've heard a lot of doctors talk about the need for centers of excellence and the space on site. I know the hospital needs flexibility with that, but all that space that would be center of excellence would definitely provide a major medical beneficial care in our community. And I do want to say that this last weekend, as we were geographically isolated again, and it seems like it's happening more and more, we didn't have a helicopter here, and it was very frightening for people to be locked in a valley where you can't move on the freeways, you can't go anywhere to get emergency help, and the only thing we have to depend on is our one hospital that serves 680 square miles. So I don't think there's any higher priority than public safety and public health. And when we become isolated in this valley far too often because of earthquake, fires, trucks overturning, traffic accidents, it is very dangerous and it is disastrous potentially. Because if you're the one that needs the help, if you're that person, and it's life or death, you want that service here. You want that opportunity to be treated in that emergency to be met by your family. We've had a lot of massive changes on design on this plan. I think they are all for the better. And I think the parking issue, there's 2,231 parking spaces. I'm not a parking expert. I have to I have to acknowledge the fact that somebody who is a parking expert, who's paid to be a parking expert, who has been trained as an engineer to be a parking expert, can calculate per our code what the amount of space is calculated to create parking. There are 4 parking structures. I don't know that anybody would want more parking structures, but they're saying that we have met code and actually some more, and that our parking code is very restrictive, and I think that if we're told that we have the parking spaces, we have the parking spaces. So the parking issue hopefully has been met, and hopefully those questions have been answered, and there is monitoring on that all the way through this project. So if there isn't an adequate parking at some point in time, it is monitored and it has to be met and created. Regarding landscaping and screening, that is being done all along. The trees are being pre-planted in front to give time for the growth. The parking structures have been designed in all the buildings, have been designed to meet the architectural need to match the Valencia theme and to be pleasing and reflect the local neighborhood. I think that there are, we could go on and on and on, but I think if you went through this document, you would find the answers to almost every question. The statement of overriding consideration, it is necessary. There is an air quality issue every time we do something. And so I guess the question is it better for people to travel farther outside of the valley and have to create even more carbon imprint on the planet, or is it better for it to be local? We only have one hospital, and it's the only thing I have in front of me, and I really have tremendous empathy for the concerns on all sides, the concerns of the people that are worried about their health care and the adequacy of it here, the people that are worried about whether this is going to work, whether people are going to keep their word. And I think we have to have some trust in the hospital that when they've signed these agreements and these contracts, that they're not going to spend the millions and millions and millions of dollars and then just throw that away. So I believe that we really need to make a decision tonight. I had a couple things that I had, like Marcia, that I wanted to bring up. One is that that the MRI, should you need an MRI and you're at the hospital, you have to go outside the hospital building, across a parking lot, across the sidewalk, across the street to another building. So I would like a condition that would require Henry Mayo to work with the city's Community Development Department to develop a plan to provide MRI services in close proximity to the main hospital building, subject to the satisfaction of the Community Development Director, because I don't know exactly how they would work it out and do it, but until the major building is built, there's probably some way for them to work that out. Also, the rear slope landscaping behind the hospital. I'm hoping that what we can have is a requirement, because I think there's discussion about it already. The hospital would go ahead and annex the rear slope to the city's LMD, and then we could inventory the existing trees located on that slope of the hospital campus and have a study conducted to determine the overall health and viability of the trees, identify the measures that need to be done for long-term maintenance of this most important landscape buffer, and plant additional trees or tree replacements, whatever needs to be done after determining what the planning needs to be for the area. I know they already have a tree requirement, and it'd probably be fairly minimal, but just to have an analysis, some of them may be, we went out and we looked at the areas. Some of them may not be healthy, some of them are maybe in stress. But I'd like to see that done just so that the viability of that tree buffer continues to grow and be healthy and maintain a tree screen for the people that live on this summit. I have great empathy for what's going on here with everybody's frustration with this. And I think that what's really important is to remember that as a city council and as community members, if there's one thing that we can't do, we can't not have medical services available. I personally really work hard at not seeing a doctor. I don't ever want to see a doctor. I work really hard to be nutritionally healthy. I exercise. I don't want to see a doctor. But if it's a life or death situation, if it's an emergency, if you have an illness and you need it now, it's got to be there. And it would be really wrong for the city council not to look at that and not to look at the long-term impact when you only have one amenity and you become isolated in this valley. There has to be thought about what happens. What happens if there's a Homeland Security breach? Where are you going to go? What kind of medical care are you going to get? There's only one answer. And until another hospital comes in, which will be many, many years away, we only have one opportunity for care. And I would think that you want the very best care. So I'm at a point ready to vote.
I still have some things, but I also would like to hear from you. But let me do these couple of things that I forgot to do. On conditions of approval, Exhibit B, GC3, there's some language here that concerns me. It says, it's on the first page, and it says, in the event the city becomes aware of any such claim, action, or proceeding, the city shall promptly notify the applicant. Or if the city fails to cooperate fully in the defense, the applicant shall not thereafter be responsible to defend, indemnify, or hold harmless the city. Who decides whether the city is cooperating in the defense? Doesn't that kind of give those guys an out, and where the city then would be responsible and not be indemnified? That's that sentence, that fails to cooperate fully in the defense. I think this is too innocuous, and it's too open-ended. And I think it opens us up for being responsible and not being indemnified. Do you know where I'm at?
Oh,
Yes, this is the standard defense and indemnification condition that's in every project that the city approves. That failure to cooperate in the defense language is fairly typical in a defense and indemnification condition. Ultimately, it would be the court that would decide whether or not we're cooperating. If it gives you concern, the phraseology gives you concern, might I suggest eliminating the word fully? But the idea of we're not cooperating in the defense gives them the ability not to have to defend us. That's fairly typical language in a defense and indemnification condition.
Well, maybe eliminating that word would be better. But I mean, it's just a little word, but it gives me concern. Regarding Exhibit A, Resolution EN11, when you're talking about hours of operation, and this, I'm assuming this is for the dirt hauling operation, you say hours of operation shall be as follows: Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., and then you say Saturday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Well, Saturday morning is when people would like to sleep in a little bit. And I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind if we couldn't change that to not start until 9 a.m. on Saturday. So is somebody keeping track of these requests so that we can decide if the council would like to help me out with those?
Yes.
Okay. And I just want to say once again, when I heard that the two parties were talking to come to an agreement, I was ecstatic. And I was happy to hear that the hospital was willing to compromise because then they would not have to go through years of lawsuits and such. I'm very disappointed that their own attorney told them they could not be in the room. I don't think we said they couldn't be in the room. I don't think the developer or applicant said they couldn't be in the room. Their attorney said that. So to come up here and accuse us of doing backroom deals disappoints me a lot. And I think what happened when you did that was you made the council then change their mind as to whether they would agree to put this in there as something that could be looked at. And I'm very disappointed at that. It's not the council that did it. And it's not the applicant that did it. And I just want you guys to remember that when we take our vote.
Couple of comments, if I may. Once again, we have a difficult issue before the city council, one where we've got a lot of divisiveness in the community. And I will tell you, ladies and gentlemen, and we have as a council read numerous letters, emails, phone calls on this matter. And I do believe if we stacked them all up, it'd be an even high pile. I really do. Having said that, I have read EIRs, staff reports, letters from attorneys talking of building aesthetics, parking, drainage, plannings, traffic, and it goes on and on and on. And I will openly tell you that I consider that we at City Hall have a very educated and qualified staff that are very capable of addressing those matters and have done, I think, a very fine job in working with the applicant along those lines. I want to repeat something on a personal basis. I support Henry Mayo Hospital. I have for years, not only with my time, but with my money, and I have every intention of continuing to do that support for the hospital. I want to read excerpts, if I may, from 3 correspondents I've got, because they certainly, in part, represent some concerns that I have. The real question and the problem is that the hospital needs to be expanded. This is not accomplished by building medical office buildings. What surgeon is going to relocate to a center of excellence when he has no operating rooms in which to perform? Build the hospital first. All of the ancillary functions, such as imaging and non-surgical procedures, do not need to be performed or located on campus. Why do we want to cram medical office buildings in the heart of a residential area when there are multiple locations within a few miles of the facility? The answer is follow the money. Who stands to profit from this expansion? G&L Realty. It's bad business to mix nonprofit for nonprofit land, or what means a hospital. Can I tell you, I really disagree with the entire manner in which this thing has been constructed. We have a not-for-profit hospital here in the community, a community hospital, that has sat down, gone with a for-profit company based in Beverly Hills to come up with a development affecting this community in a huge, huge manner. And I honestly feel, ladies and gentlemen, that it's a train wreck waiting to happen in the future. I think it is a bad business decision on both parties, and unfortunately, we're caught right in the middle of it here at City Hall. I am writing to express my support for the expansion of the patient acute care facilities at Henry Mayo Newhall Memorial Hospital. The emphasis should first and foremost be on the construction of areas to accommodate additional hospital beds, not on increased medical office space. I encourage the City of Santa Clarita to give consideration to whatever support in terms of financing and expediting the building process, which will allow Henry Mayo Hospital to most expeditiously provide greater patient care areas without the prior construction of medical office space. I'm a 42-year resident of our community, a physician, and business owner who has practiced here for 24 years. I concur with those comments. I will tell you that I have taken the time, as I know all of the council members in whatever avenues that they've elected to follow or investigate, what have you. I have talked with many doctors. Many of them were not here this evening. that have had some real issues regarding this overall plan. I wish to say that I've met with many of the doctors and staff. Regarding this proposal, they have expressed huge concerns regarding G&L Hospital and administration statements having been made that have been coerced in support of the plan. Ladies and gentlemen, in this community, good projects do not keep us out here until 1 in the morning. I'll tell you that. Only projects that have huge issues get this kind of response from the community. All of the discussions regarding centers of excellence, in my opinion, is nothing more than a smokescreen to avoid dealing with the real issue, that being building 3 massive medical office buildings of a private developer in the middle of a residential area, and was never intended for this kind of high-density office buildings. And I've been living here for the hospital too. And I really sincerely, this location was never intended to be expanded to this extent at the behest of this community. I am certainly in support of expansion of hospital and medical services with the growth of this community. But I will tell you, this is not 21st century planning. We're going back to the 20th century here with this. We're putting 20 pounds in a 5-pound bag, and it hurts the community, everybody living in that area. There's no getting around it. Overriding considerations could be given to inpatient hospital expansion, but not to a Beverly Hills developer. I feel strong about that. If this was an inpatient building, this would be a non-issue for me, and I think it's been clearly expressed by virtually every speaker that has come before us tonight. You bet you give me a hospital, but how dare you do this to me with medical office buildings lining somebody's pocket in Beverly Hills. This proposal with G&L Realty will have a huge detrimental effects with the surrounding area and the quality of life to our families. I'm going to say something more. Additionally, I would be less than forthright by not saying I have huge issues with G&L. A company that would come into our community and attempt to buy our election, this is hardly the kind of a company that I want to have involved in the medical health care and protection of this community going into the future. And I openly tell you that, sir. I find it reprehensible. And my comments to you have nothing to do with this young lady. She had no involvement with that whatsoever, and she's a fine addition to this council, and I'm honored to have her up here with us. But I will tell you, you come into this town and buy our election or participate in it at this level, I think it is disgusting. And I told the other guy that did this about 6 years ago, and I'll tell you, shame on you. Nothing has occurred on this matter that has changed my position. MOB 3 is adding insult to injury to our community, and I will not support it due to its over-the-top negative impacts to our community and our families. Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Can you show me where the different alternatives are in the EIR? Tell me where they're at. I didn't sticky this latest one.
It's Councilmember McLean. It's Chapter 6 of the September EIR.
They're not in the November one?
They're not in. That's Volume 2. Volume 1 is your September document, and I actually have a copy at my seat. And the alternative that is under discussion this evening is Alternative 3.
I'm not finding it in here. It's in Chapter 6. Oh, alternatives to the proposed project. Okay, I gotcha. Okay. I'm going to make a motion. I'm going to make a motion that we go with alternative 2, MOBs 1 and 2, with the inpatient building and supporting facilities, with the language that I proposed.
Everybody clear on the language that she proposed, and are they comfortable with it? For a second? City Clerk, could you read those provisions that she had made?
I think Ken Strickland put them down.
Ken, do you wish to do it?
It's the additional language with regard to recycling. We had a change to the indemnification language to take out the word fully. Are you talking about just the ones you mentioned, Councilmember McLean, or the other ones
I
as well?
did with the hours. We had the hours. The language on the, just take out the word fully in defense.
Right.
Add the language requiring, well, that was on MOB 3. If we don't do MOB 3, then we don't need that. But if we do that, then the language regarding the contract showing that, you know, it's due for completion.
That would not be included in this motion.
Not in this motion. Is there a second?
Ask the question. Do we have a second? There's no second.
Okay. And that
Counsel?
dies. Then I would like to make a motion that we adopt alternative 3. MOBs 1 through 3 with the reduced height inpatient building and supporting facilities, along with the language that I proposed. And this would be good for the neighborhood. It would be good for the city, as stated by our own attorneys. And the hospital can make it work. I know they can.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Second. Further discussion?
Mayor, I'd just like to say, one of the speakers made a comment about that 3 of the council members are going to be up for election in a year and a half and are going to have to answer how they voted for this. Regardless of when you're up for re-election or when or if you're running again, how you vote on this is very important, and the whole community is looking. And because of that, I think it's so important that we show our support. There are a couple hundred very passionate people who've been involved in this for the last 4 years, although I think it's grown over that time. There are a couple 100,000 people who are not here, who are expecting us to take care the best we can of their health care needs. Having said that, I'd like to move the recommended staff recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Is that including their language?
Yes, including the additions from council members West and McLean.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead,
does that
Carl.
include in the adoption of the resolution, that's item 2, the insertion of paragraph 5H for the final environmental impact resolution?
But
What's
You lost
5H?
me.
5H would not be necessary if we're moving staff recommendation.
We're not including new language for further positive accommodations.
Okay, it's without,
Without the language that he said in number 33,
yeah, and without the addition of
without 5.
paragraph 33 in the development agreement.
Correct.
You would not be willing to?
Without that.
We were very willing, but.
No,
it's clear
I'm just
they're not.
wondering it now, at this point, you know, we can't, we're beyond the point where we can have a second reading on the 25th of November anyway. So if we adopt this tonight with this inclusion in it, gives them a chance to at least talk about it and see it, and then if they come back on the 25th and they say, no, absolutely not, then we don't have to worry about it. But at least it gives an option. It's not shutting the door on it.
You know what, Marcia, to be perfectly honest, my concern is this thing I said at the beginning of the evening. And I'll go back, 2-3 years ago when I first started paying close attention to this. My reaction was that this was one person concerned about the view from their backyard. And we were all, all we heard was, no, that's not it. It's more than that. It's the traffic, it's the road, it's the eminent domain. It went on and on with the air quality, and it was this big thing. And we look at this agreement that was made, there's no mention of those evil medical office buildings coming out or anything talking about the terrible developer or the horrible CEO that's got this underhanded. All they cared about was lowering that inpatient building, which all we've heard is, oh no, we want the inpatient building, we just don't want everything else. But this, funky under the table agreement thing was, no, just lower the building. The view's fine. So I go back to my original thoughts from about 2.5 years ago. This is one person's view. So I don't feel comfortable inserting that because I don't think this is a genuine offer, and I also think that it doesn't do any justice to all the other people who have concerns, and their concerns are other than one person's view.
Personally, I don't think this is just one person's view. It's everyone who lives up on their head. They're going to see it.
It's several homes.
And the language in here does give a level of comfort about, the amount of the steel in the air and.
Marcia, if I may.
Yes, certainly.
She made a motion. Her motion did not include it in listening to her. Frank, you seconded that motion, or you, with that
Mayor.
understanding, are you still there?
Mr. Mayor.
So we do have a motion and a second, yes.
Because the ordinance requires reading of the title, that's item 4, can we take 1, 2, and 3 first and then deal with item 4?
That pleases the council, I'm fine with that.
Are we taking a separate vote on the master plan and the development agreement, or are we doing it all at once?
1, 2, and 3 would be adopt the resolution certifying the final environmental impact report, and then 3 is adopt the resolution approving master plan, subject to conditions of approval. 4 is it only deals with the development agreement, and that requires an ordinance.
Okay, so 1, 2, and 3 is for the EIR and the master plan. And then the next one, there's a separate vote for the development agreement, correct?
Yes.
Good with that, Lori?
So Carl, what you're saying then is my motion should be to adopt the resolution certifying the final EIR, and adopt the statement of overriding considerations in the mitigation monitoring and reporting, and adopt the resolution approving master plan 04022, subject to conditions of approval, including the additions from council members West and
Yes,
and
that's
McLean.
correct.
Okay.
It's
Is
really
your
2 and 3.
Your motion amended to that?
Yes.
Frank, you're still a second? Any further discussion?
Yeah,
Roll call.
just one more thing. Sorry, Bob.
I didn't say it fast enough, did I?
No, I know. Just one more thing. My vote tonight absolutely has nothing to do with my reelection. I just wanted to let you know that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Roll call.
Thank you. Councilmember Ender,
Yes.
Councilmember McLean,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ferry,
Yes.
Councilmember West,
Aye.
Mayor Keller.
No.
Motion carries.
Now, Mr. Mayor, it's appropriate to take up item 4.
Understood.
Normally, we have in the consent calendar, the first item is waiver of further reading. We don't have that tonight, so it is necessary to read the title of the ordinance, have a motion for a waiver of further reading, and then a motion to introduce and pass to second reading. So if the council is ready, I'll read the title to the ordinance.
Please do.
Yes. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Santa Clarita approving Development Agreement 06-001 for Master Case 04-325, Master Plan 04-022 for the development of the of the 15-year master plan of the Henry Mayo Newhall Memorial Hospital Master Plan Project in the city of Santa Clarita, California. Motion to waive further reading is in order.
Thank you, Carl. Lori, is that your motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion
That
and a
can be
second?
no objection, so ordered.
Ken?
Well, except that I'd like you to take a vote, please.
On the waiver of further reading?
Oh, no. I'm sorry.
Oh.
I thought you were doing the development agreement.
Then the motion to introduce and pass to second reading is in order.
Okay. I thought that's what we did with that last one, but, so in order to take it to a second reading, number 4. Your
So
motion?
moved.
Second.
Okay, we have motion and second. Roll call.
Thank you. Councilmember McLean,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Ferry,
Yes.
Councilmember Ender,
Yes.
Councilmember West,
Aye.
Mayor Keller.
No.
May I ask, do we have to specify when the second reading will be? Is that now an issue at,
The second reading will come back on December 9th, since it's now into November 20th.
Yes, it has to be not less than 5 days from the introduction.
understood? We don't want to meet here at midnight next week? No. Okay.
That's okay, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you. That concludes item number 1. We'll move on to the public participation. Do we have any speakers?
I have one request to speak.
Cam Noltmeyer?
Cam Noltemeyer speaking for myself. As you might expect, this is typical of what we expected. We have a sad thing going on in this community. We saw it in the council election when we had I believe it was a Committee for Integrity in Government, which was G&L Realty, gave the $30,000 that bankrolled a council member. Now we see it in the Friends of Hart High School District Committee for Measure SA. What we're seeing is big money taking over our community. We saw it here tonight. We saw it in the SA. They collected almost $252,000. Now, great that you think Friends of Hart High School. Oh, this is the PTA people, this is the parents, this is them putting up money. No, that money came, at least $180,000 from just 10 companies that do business with the Hart School District. Nothing from the community. This wasn't PTA any more than the council race was PTA. So it's very disturbing to me. I've lived out here prior to incorporation of the city, and all I've seen is it going down from what we thought when we said there was going to be a new city. And tonight just proves that we've reached the bottom of the pit. And with the with Measure A, that was for $300 million, and the assistant treasurer on that was actually a employee of the district who will be doling out the money to the very people that gave it. And this, is just breaking my heart to see what has happened to the ethics, and it isn't a small community anymore. We don't have concerns for the quality of life. We didn't move out here for what is happening here. Thank you.
Thank you, Cam. City Manager, comment?
No, sir.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we stand adjourned. I thank everybody, and I apologize for the late hour. We will have our next council meeting next Tuesday night on the 25th, 6 p.m. Thank you.
pregnant, scared, alone? Sometimes knowing where to go for help is half the battle. You want straight, honest answers you can trust. At the SCV Pregnancy Center, you'll receive the personal care and support you need to make informed decisions at this important time in your life. The choice is yours. Choose to know. All services are free.
Hi, I'm Howie Mandel.
I'm Sally Field.
I want to introduce you to a very special place.
Lark Ranch began almost 50 years ago. It was started by a group of visionary parents who were not willing to accept institutional surroundings for their developmentally disabled children.
Lark is a unique facility with a community of individuals who are all special and contributing members not only of Lark, but of the larger community of Santa Clarita.
But they need your help to maintain this outstanding program and continue to deliver to its residents the kind of care that will help keep Lark Ranch operating for another 50 years.
Please give generously.
And let's continue the miracle of Lark.